Okay, here we go. Welcome everyone to our webinar on compiling. We're gonna let everyone trickle in. As a reminder, this is a recorded webinar, so just keep that in mind. If there's any, oh, sorry, keep having something stuck in my throat here. Welcome back. I'm pulling up the chat, everyone. Thank you. Welcome back, Franklin. Happy to have you here. Yeah, so this is a recorded webinar. So if there's any questions or any, don't feel like you have to write everything down. We will replay this later tomorrow. So look out for that. Welcome back. Compiling is your bane. I get that. I get that. Compiling is one of those things, honestly. For those of you who are still writing, this is good information to know, especially if you need to share things with other people. But really, you don't need to know everything about the compiler to use it and to use it well. That's kind of what we're going to touch on today. We're going to look at the core fundamentals, the main things that make the compiler great. And if there's anything, you'll find that if there's specific little niche problems, we'll try to look at those as best we can. But anything we can't get to, of course, you can email us and we will figure it out for you. Welcome, Angelica. Hello again. Very excited to have you here. Once again, we're going to give everyone about 5 minutes here to get in here. We had about a little over 90 to 100 people signed up here. So we want to give them plenty of time to jump into the presentation here before we get started. As a reminder, everyone has been so good in the chat. Just a reminder that this is an open learning space. We're all learning together. Let's be kind and friendly and helpful in the chat. We don't want to start any back and forth arguments or anything like that. Like I said, we've never had problems with that. Everyone has been really good for the most part. So thank you so much for being awesome people, and thank you for coming. Welcome, Edwin. Welcome, Timothy, again. Paulo. Oh, the compiler in the previous version was wonderful. Okay, and so that's where some people are gonna be like, oh man, the compiler in the previous version was great. The new one is so difficult. And it's true. We did completely redesign the compiler in version 3. And I think after today, you'll see why the version 3 compiler is so awesome and so easy to use. But I can understand that if you learned this Scrivener 2 compiler, right, you'll be like, oh man, this is totally different. And that can be a little bit of a hiccup, a little bit of a hump to cross coming from version 2 to version 3. And likewise, I know there are some Scrivener 3 users who only knew Scrivener 3, and looking back, maybe they look back at Scrivener 2 and be like, oh, what is this foreign language? Yeah, it's tricky. But don't worry, the Scrivener 3 compiler is great. I'll show you how to use it very simply, easily, and we'll get into that today. Welcome, Rachel. Very excited to have you here. Thank you for, I know you've been using Scrivener since 2009. So have I. So welcome to the club. Yeah, it's just one of those things that, I use Scrivener 2 and Scrivener 3 now. So I use both versions. Yeah. Okay, yeah, the last version is too complicated. Yep. Welcome, Anna. The time difference is amazing. It's late evening on the other side of the globe in Poland. Well, thank you for coming in and appreciate it. I know it's hard. It's tricky to get everyone in the right time zones here. It's a challenge, but that's why we record them. That's why we do the replay. So you guys who can't always attend live will have the opportunity to rewatch these later. Okay, Kathy just realized you're still in version 2 in the middle of the book and wanted to wait till the book's done to upgrade. So I will sign out for today. Oh yeah, no problem. But for the compiler, yeah, version 2 compiler is different. So feel free, if you need to go, that's fine. But I'd love to have you stay and see what's different about that. But if you're still working on that, that's totally okay. Oh yes, Hawaii and Poland in the house. That's true. Oh, good. I'm so glad. These are helping you out, and you're making big progress in your writing. It's really important for me. I really care about that. Welcome, Cassidy from PA. Glad you've been using Scrivener for Windows. That's wonderful. You love the new version. That's great. Let's see how we're doing in time. We got about a minute, so we need to get started here. As a reminder, I have Ruth here today on tech support. She is going to be in the Q&A. So if you could post your questions in the Q&A so she can answer those as we're going through. We really appreciate that. That's a great question. Let's see here. Gonna keep writing. That's great, Catherine. Keep on writing. Keep on working on it. Welcome, Blaine from Texas. That's where I'm at. I'm in Texas right now too. Dave, that's a great question. Do we have any webinars on Scapple? We have had some webinars in the past, I think last month. And the first time we actually did this first week, we had some Scrivener and Scapple combined webinars. I don't currently have any planned right now. But probably sometime in the future this year, we will have some more. If you'd like to see Scapple webinars, shoot me an email, let me know. Oliver@literatureLatte.com. Okay, Craig, great. I love Scapple. It's a great app. I'd love to talk more about that. So we can definitely do that if that's what you guys are interested in. Oh, Barry, you're wondering where we can sign up for these webinars. You can sign them up for them. Here, let me get that posted in here. Also, it's in the Scapple webinar. Great, this is good. I will send this to everyone. So this is www.literatureandlatte.com/outreach. Okay, that's where you're going to want to go to to sign up for these webinars. And every time we have a new set, every month, anytime we have new ones, we post them in there for you guys to do. And you can also, subscribe to my social media accounts as well as the Literature Latte social media accounts. We frequently post on there as well. And if you'd be interested, I'm also putting together an email list of people who would be interested in being added to like an email list, a newsletter, where I can just send out a batch email to everyone, just say, hey, this week we got some webinars going on. If that's something you'd be interested in, shoot me an email as well, and I can add you to that list. Okay, so looking good. That list is a work in progress, so it may take me some time to get it ready. But if you'd like to be included in that, let me know. Okay, I think we're a little bit over time. You guys have had lots of great questions for me right here at the beginning. That's just fine, but I want to make sure we have plenty of time here. So let's go ahead and get started. So happy to have you all here. And here we go. Sharing screen. And voila, how to master Scrivener's compiler with beautiful results. Let's get started here. Now, for those of you who this is your first Zoom lesson with me, my name is Oliver Evanson. I am the outreach specialist for Literature Latte. I have joined the team back in May of 2018. Okay, I've also used Scrivener for the better part of 13 years, just so you know. If you prefer a more intimate setting, a more setting where we can really dig down a little bit deeper than what we do in these bigger webinars, we are offering free how-to webinars with me for recommended sizes of 15 people or more. Okay, we could definitely set that up. If you'd like to learn more about that, it's that same link I gave you earlier, literatureandlatte.com/outreach. That's where we'll have our live webinars listed, as well as the opportunity, if you'd like to do those kind of smaller, more private webinars. Okay, happy to do those meetings. Those are a lot of fun. I really enjoy that kind of one-on-one interaction. You can also learn more about me at literatureandlatte.com/about us and via my personal website at oj.evanson.com. Okay, yes, Nita, these recordings will be available later on, and we'll get you that link here at the end of the presentation. Ruthie, if you don't mind getting that that would be great too. That's at literatureandlatte.com/library is the link for the recordings. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, moving right along. Okay. So first off, what is Scrivener, right? Now, Scrivener is aimed at writers of all types. We're talking novelists, journalists, academics, screenwriters, playwrights, anyone who needs to structure a long piece of text. Now, you can visualize the documents as sheets in a ring binder, each with a virtual index card clipped to it. And as you move each document or folder around the binder, the index card comes too. Okay. Now, it's a ring binder, it's a scrapbook, it's a corkboard, it's an outliner, it's a text editor, all tailor-made to help you grow a manuscript. Now, there are a lot of tools in Scrivener, okay, tons of them, but that doesn't mean it's complicated, okay? There's no need to learn everything about the app before you get started. Many features are there if you need them, but you're unlikely to use them all. And in time, you'll learn to add to the basics and bring in extra tools to suit your writing style. The same goes for the compiler. Today, we're going to dig deep into the core fundamentals of the compiler. That doesn't mean we're going to be able to cover everything there is about the compiler. There's so much in depth we could go about the Scrivener's compiler, but you don't need to know it all at once. We just need to know how to use it well, and then what options and other tools are available in there in case I need them, okay? So let's get started with the core fundamentals of Scrivener's compile. First off, we have our compile output. You need to know what are you actually outputting out of Scrivener? When you have your whole manuscript in your binder, right? How do you want to present that or take that out of Scrivener? Now we have several options available. You can print it out, right? You can export it as a PDF, as a Word document, as an open office document. You can even do plain text or rich text files. If you're doing a script, you can do Final Draft or Fountain. If you need it as an ebook, we do support EPUB and Kindle Mobi. And finally, if you do multi-markdown, you can also export multi-markdown out of Scrivener, okay? Next, we have our compile formats. And similar to what we talked in the last session, how you have specific formatting you can do inside Scrivener, the compile formats are designed around the idea of the formatting, how your document will look, right? How your manuscript will look when you export it out of Scrivener. Now, there are several options here. The first and foremost is the default one right here, right? That means that no formatting is really going to change. Minor things maybe, but really the formatting that as it exists in Scrivener is what will be exported out into your preferred format here. Okay, so long as that format supports all that formatting, right? Okay, next we have our manuscript courier and times. This is specifically for novelists, right? People who are trying to compile a manuscript if they require a courier type. And this is based off of general standards across in the industry, for courier and Times New Roman, okay? We have it set up for an outline document. So if you needed to export just the outline, the structure of your projects, okay? We have a paperback, and that has two options, two different paperback styles. We have our proof copy, which is, if you were sharing it with an editor or a peer for review, right? If you're doing a script, we have a specific script or screenplay format you can work with, as well as a Vellum export specifically. That's just for the Microsoft Word one, okay? If you use Vellum to create your ebooks and things like that, Scrivener does support that with Microsoft Word export, right? So you could export it as a Microsoft Word document, which then can be imported into Vellum, which then can be turned into an ebook. Now, as you know, I showed it earlier, you can also do that in Scrivener. You can do EPUB and Mobi ebooks in Scrivener. Some people find that a bit tricky to do. So in that case, you could use a different app like Vellum to do just that. Scrivener provides both options for you. Oops, one thing I forgot to mention, and we'll look at editing these formats, how to duplicate existing ones, how to create new ones, and what options are available there. That's gonna be one of those things where we'll look at all the options. We're not gonna be able to hit everything because there's tons of them, but we'll try to look at the key components there as to what you might need to change and how to go about making those changes, okay? Next, we have section layouts, okay? And that's the center section there. This is basically the layout of how your manuscript will look when it's compiled. Really pretty simple. I'll show you exactly how to break that down. You can choose a global font here, so you can change the whole font with a click of a button. Really easy. Just click the drop-down menu, click it, and that font will be changed completely throughout the entire document. Okay. We have our editing. You can edit the section layouts from the overview and also how to assign those section layouts. Okay. Finally, we're going to take a peek at the compile settings. Okay, and that's the far right side. We'll look at this in Scrivener here in just a second. We'll discuss most of the tabs. Now, these tabs can be a little different depending on which output you select. But for the most part, we're going to cover these four main tabs because these ones are available on most, not all, but most of the compile outputs that I've shown here. Okay, so we'll look at the contents tab, the metadata tab, the general options, and the cover options as well. Okay, so that's that. That's what we're going to cover today. Hopefully we can get through this pretty quickly. And I know the compiler can be a bit daunting for some of us. So when you rewatch this later, if you need to slow it down, I encourage you to do so. But I want to get through this core fundamentals, so I might talk a little bit fast. Hopefully not too fast for you, but just a little bit so we can make sure we can get through the core fundamentals here today. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna close this out, hide that there, bring this over here so I can still see it. and we will get started here right now. Okay. Let's make this smaller. Okay, so we're going to look right now at a new project, right? If I compile a new project, there's not going to be anything in it, but let's just take a look here real quick. Actually, let's not use a blank project. Let's use a fiction project here. Start up here. Call it the first novel. Ooh, not true. Okay, we'll put it in there. Create. Okay. And this is just so we can get the basic cleared settings of the compiler. So there's nothing that I've changed in here. This is exactly how it should look for you when you pull it up. Okay. So you can see here we have actually let me show you how to get there. If you don't know how to get to compiler, it's File, Compile. What I did there to bring that up so quickly was I used Option Command E. It's going to be a different shortcut on PC, but Option Command E, and you can just pull that up like that. It'll make it nice and big here for you. You can even resize it as needed, bigger, smaller. We're going to make it bigger so we can all see that well. Okay. Perfect. And we have 3 panes here. We have our formats here. We have our section layouts, and we have our compile options. Okay. And you can see right for the compile for print, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4 options here to choose from in our option set. But first off, let's start with compile output. So to select which output you need, right? There's a drop-down menu right here at the top. Excuse me. Compile for. That's where we select our output. For right now, it's selected for print. But as you can see, I can choose a PDF. I can do rich text. I can do rich text with attachments. I can do a Microsoft Word. This is the most current version of Word. I can do even an older version of Word if I need to. If someone's using a really old PC or something. I can do Open Office, plain text. I can even export as a web page if I'm doing an HTML file, final draft, and Fountain Screenplays if I'm doing it in a screenplay. That way, someone who's using those 2 apps could open this up and use it. You can see we have our EPUB, our Kindle ebook, and also multi-markdown if you use multi-markdown. Now, I'm not going to cover multi-markdown much today. That's kind of an advanced concept. It's typically for people who use this multi-markdown language. So if you're one of those people, I apologize, I'm not going to be able to cover that. But just know that Scrivener does support it, and it does a really good job. In fact, our user manual is used with multi-markdown and LaTeX right here. Okay. And so if you have questions about that, feel free to email us. We have some great team members who use that, who would be happy to answer questions about multi-markdown and LaTeX. Okay, so here we go. So let's look at this here real quick. Let's talk about compile formats. Now that we know how to select it, right? I can select any one of these ones. You'll see if I select different ones, I get different options. So like here I have a cover, right? For PDF, I can put a cover on it. For rich text, I do not, right? I have these options here. And so as we go through these, you'll just see that different ones have different options. You can see right here for Microsoft Word, I can do the vellum export I had mentioned earlier as part of the compile formats. Okay, I can do, let's see here, Microsoft Word, not much, there's no vellum export on the old version of Word, just the new version. Open Office, I can do plain text, and you can see that the layouts change based on, and even the formats available will change based on what we have available, what option we select here. For the most part, a lot of these remain the same, but occasionally they do change. See like that one right there, web page. We lose a few more options. And that's just because those specific formats are not applicable or compatible with whatever we're trying to output. So if we come to final draft, you can see we can only put as a script or screenplay, because that's specifically what final draft is designed for writing screenplays. Same with Fountain Screenplay. EPUB, we have a few different formats here to choose from. You can use the default, of course, and an ebook or an ebook screenplay, as well as just like an outline document if you just want the outline as an ebook. Same with Kindle. And multi-markdown, you'll have just your multi-markdown basics here as well. Okay. Let's take a look at formats. So the most often I think that most people will end up using is Microsoft Word, right? Because people outside of Scrivener often use Word, whether we like it or not, right? And so we're often going to be sending documents in Microsoft Word. So that's the one we're going to default to today, and the one we'll look at and use. Okay, if we have questions about PDF or print, or or these others, let me know. I'm sure people are going to have questions about the EPUB and the Kindle eBooks, but let's focus on Microsoft Word right now. If we have time, we'll jump into those. So we have a couple different options here, right? We have our default, which is exactly what it says. That's the default. It's going to default to whatever formatting you have set up in Scrivener. Okay, so if I came, let's close this out. Let's open a recent project of mine, right? It's my recent project. And then went to File, Compile, and they compile with the default. Let's do Word. It's going to determine the font determined by the section layout. It's based on what is currently defaulted in the editor. We're going to come back here. Excuse me. It's gonna look at, there we go. What sorry, my throat messed me up there, maybe lose track of what I was saying. It's going to default to exactly what the formatting that's inside of Scrivener. So I'm going to go ahead and compile that. We'll take a look at what that looks like. This is, I can give it a name, right? Okay, we'll save that to my desktop for now. Here, give it a second while it loads that up. The computer's a little bit slower when I'm running Zoom in the background. If I scroll down here, minimize that. You can see here's the resulting Word document that came out. Now default, it's going to make things look exactly how it is in the editor. The only thing different, right, is that we're adding in these scenes, right, here, or not scenes, these titles here. Okay, if you go through it, see it's the Palantino 13. If I come in here, I'm using Palantino regular 13, so the font is remaining the same, right? Nothing has changed in that regard. Okay. And Scrivener is going to break it up based on how my binder has it organized, okay, and what I have selected. Okay, so we can scroll down here and I have all this stuff. Let's zoom out here. It's all going to be just like it is. I also have comments being exported, so those are going to pop up here too. But that's what the default one does. So let's go to File, Compile. Okay, and now let's quickly look at section layouts. Okay, now what's happening here is our part heading is appearing as is, and that means it's only including the main text. It's based on how it appears inside the editor here, so it's not doing anything special for the acts. That's why when we pulled up that document, right, it doesn't have like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. There's nothing there to put down. Now for the title, right, these ones, which you can see it's highlighted here on the right side here, these are all my chapters, right? For chapter heading, as it's called, it's just doing a section title. If we look now here at the actual thing here, you can see we have the section title, The Butcher's Needs. Every time we encounter a chapter, we scroll down here, oops, that's it, we get that again, right? So it's really basic in terms of what it looks like right now. And the same for scene. The main text form will be based on how the text appears in the editor. Once again, how the text appears in the editor is the Palantino size 13. So that's what's going to be exported out. Now, if I wanted to, I can actually change the whole font right here by clicking this button and selecting a different font. And it would change everything to that font. The part heading, the chapter heading, everything. I can do that with anything here, any font I want that I have on my computer. Okay, we're going to go ahead and change it back to the default. We'll come look at that in a minute. But I can also come in here and I can change these. I can edit these to be whatever I like. I can click this little edit button here, this case, or here, right? Or I can click Assign Section Layouts and choose a different layout here. Now, what you're probably asking yourself, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to, what is Assign Section Layouts? Why would I want to change anything? I don't know. Because what you're seeing here, okay, this is a preview, like a preview of what your manuscript will look like when you compile it, okay? And let me show you a better example here. If I click Manuscript Times, right, it's showing me the basic preview with filler text, what it will look like. So my parts will say Part 1, section title. So in this case, Part 1 is going to export Part 1, and the section title is the name of the document. It'll actually say Part 1, Act 1. I wouldn't actually want it to say that. I would probably change Act 1 to the name of the act, right? The beginning, or the sun is rising, or whatever, whatever that name actually is, right? And then for the section, for the chapter heading, it's going to actually just export section title. I don't really want that. I actually would like it to say chapter 1 and then the section title. So we'll look at that. And likewise for the scenes, it's just going to have the scenes. Anytime there's a document break, it's going to put this pound in between it, right? To break those apart. So now if I wanted to change this layout so it looks how I want it to look, right? That's where the assign section layouts comes in. So I'm going to click that. I have section types here. I have a part heading, right? A chapter heading, and the scene. This is how the scene should look. This is how the chapter should look. This is how the part heading should look. So right now I have part 1 section title. So I don't want to change my section title. I just wanted to say part 1. So I'll click that, right? Part number right there, part 1. I could even come down and let's see here. I could have it just do the section title. So it just did Act 1. Actually, yeah. So let's do that instead. Instead of choosing part 1, I'm going to scroll down here. The section title, I've already titled it in the binder as Act 1, right? So that's what I want to appear. So we'll click OK. That's what will come up. So now all my Act 1, oops, made a mistake there. All my Act 1s will be section title. You can see, I'll tell you a problem. The section title is also set for the chapter heading. I don't want that. So I have to come to my chapter heading and change that. I actually want it to be chapter 1 and then section title, right? Or I could just do chapter 1. I could also do it like this, chapter 1, section title. It depends on how you want it displayed, right? So we're going to select it as this guy right here, chapter with title. Okay, we'll click OK. Okay, and then scenes, they should all appear like this as a scene. That one's not going to change. Now we have a quick preview of what it should look like. The part heading will just have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. The chapter heading will have the chapter 1 plus the section title, which in this case would be like Freedom or the Pie Samurai or Red the Axe or the Collectors, right? And then the scene should just appear like a regular scene with the pound symbol between it to break it up. We'll go ahead and compile that and we'll export. Excuse me. We'll replace it. Hopefully it should replace it here and not over here. So you can kind of see that happening. We'll pull that up. There we go. Yep. So you can see it replaced it. And now when we open that up, right? I wish word I had changed it so it wasn't in dark mode. I'm not sure how to switch that back. Oh well. You can see now it says Act 1, right? Instead of that part, we have chapter 1, the butcher's niece, and you can see very quickly. Now I have this wonderful manuscript that's all put together just how I'd like it. And it knows to do chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 based on what the order of the binder is. So if I come back to the binder here, you can see the butcher's niece is chapter 1, right? Chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. I don't actually have to change that because if I moved this up, that would now be chapter 3 instead of chapter 4, right? And it's able to easily pull those in. Okay, it might be easier if I close out a word and just do this. Here we go. There we go. It doesn't show the spacing quite. There's actually a page there, right? But you can see how it's done Act 1, chapter 1, the butcher's niece. And it gives you a quick preview. We can scroll down again. You can see anytime you see this pound, that means there's been a page, a document break. So if you come right here and we look down at the bottom here, oops, let's make it bigger. All the way at the bottom, between these two scenes, there will be a pound because of the document break here. Come back, you can see right there, that's where the break is. So very quickly and easily, just using the manuscript template, we can get a really nice looking manuscript just like that, really fast with minimal changes. In fact, in most cases, you don't even have to assign the section layouts. In most cases, it should already be set up pretty close to this. But if not, once again, you just come here, click the assign section layouts, make sure you have which thing you're changing, right? Part heading should look like a part, right? In this case, I wanted it to look like the section title, but I could have set it up as a part instead, if I can find it. Oh, there it is, part 1, or part 1 with the section title, right? Same with chapter heading. I can choose one with just the chapter 1, so it doesn't include the title. Or I can choose it just to have the section title. However I want to do it is totally fine. And then scene, typically that'll just stay like this as a scene. Okay. You can also select it as as is. So just like the default, it just appears as it is in the editor. Totally up to you. That's that. And once again, you can see, even though this is a Times New Roman default font for this, you can actually come in here and still change that to be whatever you want it to be. So I can do Poppins and it would change it for everything. Okay, in this case, I don't want to do that. Let's just do default here, but that's how you would do that. Excuse me. Likewise, there we go. So that is section layouts. Let me pull up my presentation, make sure I'm still on track here with time and everything. That's the compile. That's also compile formatting a little bit. Okay, let's look now. We've kind of talked about the defaults. We've talked about the section layouts here and how those work. I've shown you how to change the global font using this guy, this drop down menu right here. How to edit the section layouts from the overview. Actually, you know what? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. How to assign section layouts. Now you can actually edit these. I don't want to go too deep into that because that can get pretty tricky pretty quickly, but these are the default ones that exist, but you can, just so you know, come in here, click this little edit button. You'll need to duplicate and edit the existing layout to do that. And it'll bring you in here to change those. Okay. But that's a more advanced topic than it is a fundamental. You don't need to know how to do that to use the compiler. But if you needed more specific settings, you could dig deeper and learn how to do that. So for now, let's actually talk a little bit about editing those formats, which is kind of what we're doing when we edit those layouts, is we're actually editing the compile format here in the left sidebar. Okay. So there's a couple of options here you can do. You can add a new format, or you can duplicate and edit an existing format. So it doesn't matter which one. You can select any one of these you want and either duplicate it or edit it, or you can just start from scratch with a new format, all your own, however you want to do it. Personally, as a novelist, right, I like the Manuscript Times and the Manuscript Courier export options. They handle most of the heavy lifting for me. And so what I usually do, if I need to make some changes to that, I'll jump in, I'll choose one of these. I'll right click it. You can also come out down here and click duplicate and edit, however you want to do that. We'll click duplicate and edit, and I can give it a name. I might call it Manuscript Times. You can name it whatever you'd like to do. And what this does is gives you really, really specific control over what this format does to your manuscript when it takes it out of Scrivener. You can see there are a lot of different options here we go to. We're not going to go through them all. I want to go through some main points though. And even for these ones, it depends on how you're compiling. If you're doing it as a Word document, a rich text file, for print, for PDF, for what do you call it? Open Office and HTML. There's a bunch of different ways you can look at it. For now, like I said, we're focusing on Microsoft Word because that's what most of you will probably end up doing, is exporting out of it with Microsoft Word. Okay. And so we have our section layouts here. This is where we would come in and we could make changes to that, right? If I wanted to do that, I could change that in here. Title optioning, and new pages, how to handle prefixes and suffixes and other settings in here. Okay. Like I said, that's more of an advanced topic. So we're not going to go into editing those, but just know that that is possible. You can edit the defaults and change those if you need to. Okay. Separators. Now, this is one I often get asked, how do I change that pound to something else, or even just remove it altogether? I don't know if you remember earlier. Let's save that so we can just have it. You can see there's a pound symbol here, right, between each document break. And I get that question a lot. How do I get rid of that? How do I change that? Commonly, people would use the asterisks, the 3 asterisks there like that. Instead, okay, really easy to do. We'll go ahead and edit this format here. Right click and edit it. Come to our separators. And so you can see we have our default separators, right? So for folders, the default separator is a page break between sections, before sections, and between sections is an empty line. I could come in here, I could choose an empty line, I can do a simple return, or I can do something custom. For text files, you can see the custom page break between sections is that pound. Okay, that's why that's showing up there. And to change it, you just use the custom thing here, right? And you can type in that 3 asterisks like that, if that's what you use. Or better yet, if you just want to get rid of it altogether, you just don't even want to see it, you could use a You could just leave it blank, right? Nothing there. Or you could do an empty line, a single return, or even a page break if that's what you need. Although I sincerely doubt if you're using, unless you're using text files as chapters, it's rare you want to actually use that as a page break. But the option is there. You can adjust it to meet your need to do what you need it to do. And so, for example, we'll go ahead and do that. We're going to change it to between sections as an asterisk there so we can see what it'll look like. We'll save it, compile it. Let's go ahead and export that out now. See what happens. Yes, we do want to replace it. And you can see how that's been changed now really quick. And you'll find, with the compiler, it may take a little bit of a trial and error a little bit, where you test out something and make sure, see if it does exactly what you were planning to do. So let's scroll down and see if what happened was supposed to happen. And I was talking even to Ruth, our tech support, about it. If you guys are having trouble with this at all, you can definitely contact us. See, like for some reason, it didn't change it. Let's see if you scroll down some more. And if you ever run into an error where it's not compiling how you would expect it to, sometimes it's a little tiny thing that needs to be fixed, and we, after a little bit of trial and error on our part and are doing some research on it, we can figure out what's going on. And so I always encourage you, don't ever feel like, hey, I just can't do this. That's why we're here. We're here to help you. If you're having trouble, just send us an email and we will happily look out and troubleshoot that for you if it turns out there's just something funky going on. Sometimes stuff just happens. Let me try that again. Let's come in here. Okay, that's probably why. This guy right here. So I didn't think about that. You can see we've got our pounds in there like that. So let's edit it. Let's do separators, chapter with title. There it is. Blink action test, chapter with title. Yeah. Let's try this. Save that. File that again. Export, replace. See if we can get this working. I had this actually set up beforehand. Not sure why it's not working this time. Okay, here we go. Let me pull this over here so you guys can see it. Here we go. Sometimes I forget you guys can't see both my screens. Scrolling down, let's see. Okay, it still didn't change. So I'll have to do a little digging. That almost always works. I don't know why that's not working this time. Give me 1 second. It's probably a little mistake that I'm making. There it is. Yeah. See, it made a change there. Oh, there it is. And let's just do assign it. Let's come in here and edit the format again. Like I said, sometimes it just takes a little bit of trial and error. There it is again. So you just have to come in here and you have to adjust those section layouts so it does that custom one. Normally, in most cases, especially if you're using your own personal thing, the default separator should automatically override that. Yeah, and I don't know why I didn't this time, but that should do it now. Let me just double check. These are the ones that are being used, so that's where we can check just in case. Stick that there. Okay, save, compile, export, replace. We'll take a peek at that. While it's loading there, give it just a second. Okay, this is a pretty big document. That's why it takes a little bit longer for it to load. We'll scroll down here, and that should eliminate all of those. Yep, there we go. Now you can see with a little bit of trial and error, you can easily quickly find, fix those issues. I've never actually had to do that before. It has always changed it automatically for me when I've changed that default one. I'm not sure why I didn't this time. I'm sure it's something I did. But as you can see with a little bit of trial and error, or, we can quickly and easily find what's going on, what the issue is, and narrow it down and fix it for you. So if you can't figure it out yourself, always call, email us. We are more than happy to solve any compile issues you may have. And we're always implementing, trying to improve and make this even better for you. Okay, so there we go. Fixed. Okay, so let's get back in the compiler here. Compile. And let's look at a few more things in here. So we have a few more things we can edit here. We have our separators, which you just talked about, styles. This is how you would adjust how styles are exported out of Scrivener. Okay, so you can see they're not going to appear exactly as they appear in the editor. You can come in here and make changes to their formatting for each style that you have, right? That's not that. Tables. This is where you would take care of comments and footnotes, or footnotes and comments. As it says here, you can look at the footnote formatting, and you can do 1, 2, 3, ABC, capital, whatever footnoting format you prefer. You can even override the font if that's what you need to do. The default for this is going to be Times New Roman, and it's size 10, right? For this, excuse me, for this manuscript. And you can do the numbering as continuous. You can have it restart after each page. You can restart after each section. Okay. You can also, if you convert your footnotes to endnotes, you can also adjust those for the endnotes so that their endnotes come out like that, right? With whichever method you prefer. Or I'm trying to think of the word, what those are called, but whichever numbering. There we go. Whichever numbering or lettering you prefer. That's how you do that. You can also adjust your actual page setting. You can use the project page settings, or you can actually just set them up directly in here. You can click the page setup and set up for what you need it to be. You can set up your margins, your top and bottom. Right now, everything's defaulted to 1 inch. Pretty common. And okay, another question I often get asked is, how do I get rid of that header and footer text at the top of my manuscript? Okay, let me see if I can find that real quick. Okay, Godwin Amulet. So you can see right here, when I use the Times New Roman, what do you call it? Compile format, right? It automatically includes the names of the author, the title abbreviation, and the page numbering. Okay. Now you can edit or remove that header altogether by coming in here, clicking the header and footer options, and then clicking the main body. You can see right here, this is symbolic of the top left corner of the editor, the middle of the header, sorry, top left corner of the header, middle of the header, and this is the end of the header. Or sorry, the top right corner of the header here. So you can see it's including the surnames, right, of the authors, the abbreviation of the project title, and the page count. Okay, that's what that means. Those are special placeholders that we use. It's a little special code. You can find a list of all those right here. Okay, help, list of all placeholders, and you'll talk about all of those here. You can use these. This is for this right here, what you call the $P. That's for page numbers. And what it does is, it tells Scrivener to say, hey, every time there's a new page, increment the page number from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Once again, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, but you can leave that alone. Let's say you just want to keep the page numbering. You don't want to have the abbreviated title. You don't want the surnames. You can quickly come in here and just delete this right here. Okay. And then click save. And now when I compile this, it's not going to have that in the header. Okay. It's only going to have the page number in the header. So we'll look at that here real quick. Okay. And you can see right here, why is it? I think it's Word actually that's giving me trouble because it's replacing it. It's not replacing it. Let me just delete that. Edit. Compile. Export. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's because every time I replace it, it's not properly replacing it. Let's try that again. There we go. Yeah. So honestly, that whole problem I was having earlier too, I'm pretty sure it's because it was trying to replace it and was not properly replacing it. You can see it's actually showing correctly now. 1, 2. So that removed all of that. Let's say I don't even want that page number there, right? Delete this here so I don't run into that same error. Rather than this is a good lesson. Rather than just replacing it each time, it's probably just a good idea to just go ahead and delete that so you don't get any copying errors. For some reason, it's doing that. I don't know why. Really strange on Word's part there. So let's do file, compile, right? And let's edit this format. Come to our page, and let's say I actually want this page numbering in the footer. So let's do it on the left side of the page, bottom left corner. We'll save that there like that, compile it, export, here it goes. You can see that real quick. Now, what's really cool about the compiler is it's really customizable. You can do all this really quickly and just add it in. You can see there it is, bottom left corner, and put it there. But I'll admit, it does take a little bit of learning. There is a bit of a learning curve here. If you invest some time in the compiler, get to know it really intimately familiar, you can do a lot of really amazing things really quickly, actually. Make some real quick changes that affects the entire document without having to do it all from scratch in Word or something, you know. But it does take a little bit of work. It does take a little bit of learning. It does take a little bit of time. And that's why when I talk to people about the compiler, usually what I tell them is that, hey, have you finished your book yet? Have you finished your project? No, you haven't? Okay, well then focus on that. Get that done. And then once you're done, that's when you get to spend some time tweaking it up, making it look nice, making it look pretty. That's what I usually encourage. So feel free to do as you please, but that's my recommendation. If you're still working on your book, take all this with a grain of salt that, you know, you can always come back when you're done and get to more familiar with the compiler. You don't have to know everything now, how to do it. In fact, if you just know how to compile it, you're good. Okay, now there are some specific settings that I want to look at. Specifically, I want to look at these 1, 2, 3, 4 settings here. Actually, 3 of these and 1 of these. Okay, so we're going to look at it. Right here we have our, I think it's our content menus. What do I call that? Let's see here. Yes, contents tab. So it's like it says, it contains the contents. We have a little drop down menu here. So I can select anything in my draft, anything I want, right? And compile just that thing. I can compile just Act 1. I can compile just the chapter, that folder, however I want, okay? In this case, I want to just compile the whole manuscript. If I want to compile the whole manuscript, but I just want to take out a chapter or 2, right? I can uncheck those boxes and that chapter will not be compiled. Okay, it will not be included in part of the manuscript. Okay, good. We're going to go ahead and jump that back in though, put that back in. Likewise, you can include, you can filter it out. You can check this for any excluded documents. This will show you that it's excluded. You can apply the filter like that, you see, so anything that's excluded, we're going to go ahead and undo that. And this just allows you to filter through what's been marked for exclusion, what's marked for inclusion, etc. You can come in here too, and you can actually change the section type, okay? Now the section type is part of our section layouts here, right? These are the types right here, part heading, chapter heading, and scene. That's what tells Scrivener what it's compiling, what it should know, how it should connect these 2 together. So how does Scrivener know that this is a part, right? Because Scrivener knows because of the order I've structured it, okay? Right now it can tell because I have a folder inside of a folder, right, with a document inside of it. That is the structure for a part, a chapter, and a scene. In most cases, Scrivener is going to take care of that for you. Your organization in your Minder, if you have a kind of a weird organization, that's when you can start messing with this to get the result you're looking for, right? So I could come in here and I could say, hey, I actually don't want this as based as a part. I want it based as a chapter. I want it to be treated like a chapter heading, not a part heading, right? I could do that, but I actually want it as a part heading, so I'm going to leave it. I could, if I was doing these scenes, if they were actually chapters, right? I could come in here and say, hey, this is actually a chapter heading, right? And force it to Scrivener to treat this document as a chapter instead of a scene, okay? In which case, what it would happen is the scene would come out with a chapter one, or, you know, be chapter 1, chapter 2, and then with its section title like that. Or I can just click the structure based here, right? If I click structure based, it's just going to base it off of what the structure is, right? In this case, you can see it actually wants to count this as a chapter. So I switched it to part heading so that it would know, hey, this is actually a part, not a chapter, okay? That's how that works. Down here too, you can see we have a couple of options here to add front matter and back matter. And front matter is essentially things like a title page and, you know, things that, you know, aren't actually part of the manuscript, but part of like introductory materials and things like that. If I check it, you can see we have things like a title page, we have a copyright, we have a dedication, we have a blank page. That would be useful for like the paperback one we have right here, right? Okay. And you may want to include that if that's what, if you need that information included there. Now you could just take this information and stick it at the very front of your manuscript and it would compile just the same. This is just a way, if you can see how it's added all here, you could actually take the title page, the copyright, dedication, blank page. You could take all that information from the front matter here, like this, and just paste to the top here. Okay. The nice thing about this though is you don't have to have that bogging up your project. You can have it down here in the front matter folder, right? File, compile, and then you can add it and take away that front matter as you need it, right? So for the manuscript, it just includes that title page. So same with the back matter, similar things. You can include anything in the back matter that you have inside of your research here, whatever you want. You can even put create a little back matter folder, so to speak, including any back stuff, that you may have. I know a lot of ebooks, you'll see a lot of information saying, hey, buy my next book, or check out this series, or check out my author page, or things like that. That would be the place to add that kind of information. And you can check or uncheck to have those things come in or not compile with it. Okay. And also you can see that it has a special section type specifically for front matter, which makes it a little bit easier too in terms of structure. Because if you use this, Scrivener will know, hey, this is front matter, and hey, this is back matter. Okay, stuff like that. Okay. Okay. So that is the content menu. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. You can see, you make sure I want to have that checked to be compiled too. And we can compile that real quick so you can see what it looks like. Export, replace. Oh, I did the replace thing again. Let's see if it messes it up or if it works. Okay, this time it worked, thankfully. Okay, you can see it. And it has that whole thing there, all the information I have in my title page. Okay, and on to Act 1. Okay, back to this. Close that out. Excuse me. Next, we have our metadata tab. Okay, and we're running low on time here. I knew I would. It's just so much to cover in an hour. I hoped I could dig deeper into this and give more time for questions, but I really want to get through this. Make sure you guys have this so you can rewatch this later. Right here, a lot of people have concerns with their project name, right? Being the title, right? And that typically, yeah, the project name is the title, but you can actually come in here and change that without changing the name of the project. So you come in here and you just say, hey, I want this called The Otter and the Animal, or I'll just call it Phantom. And what this will do is it will change the title and the title page and everything for me, rather than actually changing the product title. So I can change the title to be whatever I want it to be. I even have an abbreviated title, right? So if that was the case where that abbreviated title was being put in the header bar for me, you can see now, you can see here, it has changed to the Phantom Lord of Shadows, right? There we go. It didn't change the document name because the document name is what I name it when I export it. See, I get to compile right there. I'd have to change that to change the name. If there's multiple authors or a single author, this will be the place to put your names in, right? So this is a multi-authored book. I could add in, I could only have one name there. I can have multiple names there, whatever I want. I can even put in their surnames here. Everything here should be separated by a comma to separate them. Okay, so you know who is who and what is what. If you're working a book that has a specific subject matter or topics that you're covering, this would be the place to put that, as well as like a company or any specific keywords that need to be mentioned or comments. For the most part, for novelists, you're not really going to be using this section so much. This is a section you need to be focusing on. Okay. Now we have our settings. Okay, and this is I've shown a little bit of this in the past, but this is where these are like really common compiling settings that people have. I mentioned earlier how in the last session how you could use that style I had created, the strike through style, to quickly delete text. That's what I was talking about here, delete struck through text. I'd like to demonstrate that. So give me just a minute though. Let's talk about each one. If you have footnotes that you want that in there that you want removed and you just want to quickly remove them, you just toggle that on. All footnotes will be removed. Likewise, if you want to convert your inspector footnotes to endnotes, you click this button right here. It'll convert all inspector footnotes, all your footnotes into endnotes instead of just regular footnotes. Likewise, the same for this. If you have inline footnotes as well, you'd want to have both of those checked so they would both be converted as endnotes. Okay. I know there was a question about that the other day. That's how you do that. If you have comments, and this is by default, these two are almost always selected. I usually have them unselected because I'm still in the editing stage, right? I want my comments included. But if you want them removed, you'd keep those checked. If you want the annotations and comments included, you'd uncheck them. Likewise, if you're editing through and you have a bunch of struck through text, you've used strike through a lot, this is a way to use the compiler to quickly eliminate all that struck through text. You can just click that right there, and anything that has the strike through will be deleted upon compile. I'll demonstrate that in a second. This is a nice one to have too. Sometimes, you know, when you're writing a document, you'll finish up. Let me show you. You'll finish up and you'll have a couple of new lines right here. Well, those new lines typically on compile will be included. You can end up with weird gaps in your manuscript, okay? This is nice to have on. So unless you're using those, unless you have a specific reason for that extra white space to be there, you can turn that on and it'll just delete all that. It'll delete all those new lines and all those extra lines there at the bottom, all these spaces that shouldn't be there, and just make it all clean and really quickly make that really easy to do. You can remove highlighting, text color. If you're using document hyperlinks or any hyperlinks at all, you can have those removed. These are just quick settings where you can just quickly remove a lot of this extra stuff that may be useful to you, but isn't necessary for whoever you're sending this to or for whatever format you're moving into next, right? In this case, Microsoft Word, right? We're not going to talk about that, or that. These are kind of more advanced issues. We don't really need to know them, but if you are interested, you can ask us questions about them. We'd be happy to answer them. And then finally, I want to show you for PDFs, okay, you can do a cover. And by default, it's going to say no cover image, right? Okay, it's going to show you the paper size here. So whatever your cover is, this should be 1612 point by 792 point. Okay, so we have a default cover by right here. Okay, it's actually a little bit big for the PDF. If I compile it, it won't quite fit because it wasn't designed for PDFs. We'll compile that here so you can see it. But you can select any image that's part of your project to be that. So adding a cover is really as simple as making sure it's the right size, and then importing it. You see it kind of cut off the top there and the bottom there because it was a little bit too big for the PDF. But works. That one I believe was designed for ebooks, but you can easily adjust that size or create your cover so it matches that dimensions for a PDF if you're doing a PDF. Or like, for instance, if I had chosen this one, that fits a little bit better. These are just images that I had inside my what do you call it? My project. Obviously, you'd want to use an actual cover, one that had been designed, that you've designed or created for that. Okay. Let's see, if you have an image in the front matter, okay, it'll use that first, whatever the first image is for the cover as well. You can just have it set up as that and just stick it in the front matter folder. We'll do this no cover image for now. We'll come down to, let's do the EPUB book. We can click the ebook here. You can see it's going to have it all up here like that. I can do the cover as the ebook cover here. Let's see here. Yeah, let's do that. And then let's go ahead and compile this. So you can see what it looks like to compile an ebook. We'll export that out. I believe it's just on Apple, it's just going to use the Apple Books reader to demonstrate that. I'll show you right here. And so that's what it looks like with the cover. Okay. We got about 2 minutes left. Here we go. And so you can see it's got all the dedication and everything. I have that front matter included. Actually, or out of the box, it actually looks pretty dang good. Pretty good. Okay. And then you can do the same thing for Kindle. Okay. For Mac, you'll need, and probably for PC too, you'll probably need the Kindle previewer to do that. A lot of people who have trouble exporting to the MOBI file, we recommend you download Kindle Previewer 3, I believe is what it is what Amazon requires. And it'll have the latest everything you need to get that done. Let me just show you real quick. Looks a little bit different. We'll compile it, export, and this will be the last one we do before we close up here. Okay, here we go. And then Here we go. Sorry, it's loading up real quick. Yep, it's using Kindle Previewer 3 on my Mac here to load that up. It's really, sorry, it's a bit slow. The Amazon Mobi file is not the fastest one to compile here, but it will eventually load. Okay, here we go. It's pulling it up here. It says it's still converting it on my screen. Come on, let's see here. And so if you use Kindle, it's definitely an option. You can see it's not like you have to use the Kindle Preview thing here. You can import that file into your Kindle books, right? And with some work from Kindle Preview, you could potentially get this ready to self-publish on Amazon. But it's not going to be just like export and it's ready to go. It'll take a little extra work on your part to get that book ready for Amazon. Unfortunately, I actually don't use Kindle Preview that much. There it goes. See, even they're now even switching to EPUB, right? So that may even be obsolete here soon too, in terms of for Amazon, because they're switching over to EPUB too. But you can see, you can get a nice, good looking book, and you can even get a preview over here, what it looks like. Okay. Well, we are out of time, guys, and
yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we are out of time here, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this out.
I know, right? Sorry, everybody's having a webinar in the background.
Yeah, so sorry, my wife just had a meeting right now too, and I completely forgot about that. Okay, so yes, yep, we better go ahead and close up here. I'm sorry I couldn't get to the Q&A this time. There's just so much to cover. If you have any questions, that we couldn't answer to, I'm gonna let Ruth get to those. I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself for a minute while she answers up those questions. In the meantime, if you guys wouldn't mind doing my poll for me, that really helps me with the feedback and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. So go ahead and do that poll. As soon as you're done with that, we'll be good to go. Okay. Zoom.
Yes.
Why can't I find my thing here? Okay, so thanks for doing the poll, guys. I really appreciate it. Sorry we couldn't get to your questions this time, but don't worry. We do have 2 more presentations on Friday. Okay, so watch out for that. We'll be posting things about that here on social media here as well as well. So keep your eye out for that. I'm trying to think of anything else. Thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, and like I said, if there's anything we couldn't get to today, you're confused about that Ruth or I couldn't answer, just go ahead and send us an email. We'll get you taken care of. I see Ruth is answering that last question. And then as soon as she's done, we will go ahead and jump out of here and we'll call it good. Oh, you know what? Real quick, before we do that, let me just show you this last slide here. It has all the information about, so on Friday, we're doing the 10 pro tips to help you write better in Scrivener and how Scrivener can protect your creative works from devastating data loss. So look forward to that. That's coming up pretty soon. Here's those links as well, the emails you can reach us out in case you need them. Okay. And okay, I think we're good. Poll's looking good. Yeah, looks like everyone's just about finished. Questions have all been answered. Thank you all for coming. And I will see you in 2 days on Friday. Oh, come on. Give me just a second here while I find the button to exit out here. It's always hidden.